Okay, great. It was really pleasing a moment ago just to look at my WhatsApp and see how many of you just signed up to be on those, get those alerts. It was brilliant. At the start of this session, I'm going to give you another QR code. So get your phones out again. If we can have that up on the screen. I'm sure there's going to be loads of questions, and also we are going to obviously be recording today's session and being able to put it into centre resources at a later date. What I'd like you to be able to do is send me a WhatsApp with your question as I go, so I don't lose my train of thought. And then at the end of our session today, I'm going to we'll take some of those questions. I invite Ben and Dave up to the stage as well, and we'll try and kind of handle those questions for you. But it also means that we get to try and work out which are the kind of most important ones to go for first, and then so yeah. That QR code will appear, I think, on all the slides, so you don't have to capture it now, but it should come up with being able to send me a message. Hopefully my security settings don't say you can't send a message. We'll find out. We'll find out. Okay, so just to reiterate, talked about this last time. Census surveys in Scotland. You need access to a common financial statement, census based in England, Wales, Northern Ireland. Can't remember about Ireland. You need access to standard financial statement. All that functionality is there. I'm going to give you a bit of a kind of guided pit stop tour of Newcastle in a while. And some of you, stick your hands up if you've got a Connect Centre. Okay, so I've got people here for Connect. Right. Some of the stuff you'll see on screen might not affect you because you don't use it, because you're not the kind of party giving advice. That's the job of the hub. Just to reiterate, the stuff will be there, it's just we're not going to cover that in this session because there's quite a lot to go through. In fact, I don't know notes in here. Great. Okay, we've talked about key changes, so I don't know why I've got that in my second presentation. We've gone through those. You'll see those in a little while. Oh, I just want to welcome Hannah, who's down here. Hannah's going to drive the computer for me. I figured it was a little bit too much to try and kind of bring a walkthrough for you guys and try and use the computer at the same time. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm not capable of taking notes and being in a meeting at the same time, so this is a similar type of thing. So we've done key changes, we talked about that last time. There's another slide of key changes that we've already covered, so we'll skip through that. Bringing on to some new terminology though that goes in New Catalyst. So in New Catalyst we'll refer to cases rather than clients. And the reason that we've done that, I touched on it last time, is we want to make it just a bit more kind of user-friendly in terms of where you find information. So if you want to find out your case number, you go to case information, and if you want to find out the client's name, you go to the client tab. You'll see that in a moment, but we're kind of separating them out. If you use Legacy Catalyst, you've changed one thing in one screen, another thing in another, and it's not always very intuitive about where you should go. So by doing this, hopefully, we start to kind of address some of those things. The other thing that that changes, significant change, is bit terminology. At the moment, the kind of most basic level account is either a money mentor in a Connect Centre or an advisor. Now we recognise, particularly in debt advice centres, that increasingly you may well have administrative staff who are not providing advice, but in order to get them on Catalyst to be able to kind of produce a letter for you or whatever, print something off, they've got to have an account that says they're an advisor, and they're not. So what we've done is we just call them caseworker. So anyone who's in an advisor role in the current version, it becomes a caseworker in the new role. It's a little bit wider. Anyone can be a caseworker, but advisor is kind of more regulated terminology, isn't it, in terms of FCA. So we want to make sure there's less confusion there. And we've talked about this idea of publishing. So you prepare something in draft, it might be a letter, it might be a financial statement, it might be a DRO fact finder, and then you publish it. When you publish it, it will go into your client files. We'll come on to that. So that's where we're going with that. Great. So, demo then. Here we go. This is where we'll see if all technology is working. So, if I click my fingers, we should be able to go. No? Here we go. New catalyst. Right, I need my phone for this. So, Hannah, if you could be logging in. She's got. Don't tell anyone, because this is obviously a security breach, but she's got my username and password. So, Hannah's logging in. That's me. And if you've been using the current version of Catalyst for the last couple of years, you've got used to two-factor authentication codes now, haven't you? Yeah. Do you know what? It's just standard now with the new version. You can't turn it off. Everybody's in from the beginning. So it's going to ask for a code, which is why I've got my phone in my hands. Go into my email and tell Hannah the code. It's gone through. Catalyst. There we go. The code to enter, Hannah, 369521. We'll see if it works. Hurrah! Okay, so we're in new version of Catalyst at the present time. And you'll see it's a dark screen. Yes. If you use anything on the internet at the moment, you'll notice increasingly you have the option of light mode or dark mode. Okay, it's gone on to dark mode. Hannah, could you just switch it over to light mode for us? You just got to your name, I think it is. Yeah. Do the drop down, switch dark mode off. Got that ready. So you don't get, in the old version, you get like about half a dozen themes. We don't have themes in the new one because they're actually really difficult for us to manage programmatically. But we do have a light mode and a dark mode. If people that are involved in testing, if anyone is testing and you've got a kind of a visual impairment, I'd love to get your feedback because I want to make it a good thing for you to use. So, Denise, you were not nodding. Are you okay for it to stay in light mode, or would you prefer it dark?
I prefer it dark.
Okay, let's go dark mode. Let's go dark mode. Okay, it's back on. It's that easy to change, and it remembers. Okay, so I've talked about the left-hand pane here. We've got the diary, and all the stuff that's allocated to you that's coming up. Let's have a look. Let's go to the diary, Hannah, if we can. That will look, just give it a refresh. Or maybe next week. Maybe go to next week. There we go. I knew I'd put some things in there. So it looks like your Catalyst diary as it is at the moment. A few improved functions. You can click and drag, create a new appointment. So we'll do that. Do you want to click and drag? Somewhere and doing your new appointment. And then blank slot and create new one. And select, if we could select Scrooge McDuck to create a new appointment for. Yeah. So, pop the case in there. So, okay, we've got lots of fake data in there. Now, if you do a client appointment, it automatically, at the moment it's a bit of a bug because we've created an appointment longer than an hour, but we need to squash that bug. It's changed it to an hour because it's a client appointment. So let's put that in, but we'll get that fixed before we go live. So you can do all those types of things. Can we just duplicate that appointment, Hannah? So if you just click it and scroll down, save and duplicate event. Yeah, on. Save and duplicate. And then just come out of it. We should. We've got a duplicate. Now we can click and drag that somewhere else. So if you've got someone who's coming in regularly, you need to create a series of appointments with all the same details. So you can do that. I wasn't expecting that or anything else. But a lot of the functionality of the diary looks quite similar to what it is at the moment. Within the diary notes, you can now format and do things like that. Make bits bold and all that kind of jazz. Anything where you can do a note, you can format it the same way throughout the whole system. You've got different views. We've got a little bit of tidying up here to do. Part of it is that I've had to zoom in to get good resolution on the projector today. It looks a bit different. Just go back to that list view. So I quite like the list view, just so I can be able to scan down and see what's coming up. But we've got the ability to do that. If you're a manager, you have the ability to see your other user diaries as well in the centre. So you can find out who else is free on a particular day if you need to put them in for an appointment. And you've got an events key, so if you click the events key, excellent, thank you. You've actually got a list now of what the colours mean. The colours have been around for a while, but there's never been actually a list of what they are. We can't change them in terms of you being able to customise them yourselves, but at least you know, if you're into like use of colour for how you plan a diary, at least you can find out what each colour is denoting. So that's great. Go to close on that. Let's have a look at tasks then. So, similar in some ways to what you can currently do in tasks. You can create a task. It looks a bit different, but it's the same idea. So let's add a new task. It's for me, first of all, so I can allocate tasks to other people, but I'm going to do this one to me now. Could we do make coffee for Dave? He's nodding. And we'll do that by tomorrow. Yeah. Hold on. In the notes, I know maybe we ought to put that he likes it black with 2 sugars. Is that right, Dave? No. And save that. So it's appeared in my task list of stuff here. If your task goes red, if it's overdue, and we've got a bit of sorting in terms of the order to do, but that kind of late one should be the top of your list, really. So we've got more of a visual cue. You can mark your task as complete. So this one for, not mark Dave's as complete yet, we've not done it. I was watching New Amsterdam the other night, so we can mark that one. Anyone else into New Amsterdam? No? Not a Netflix thing. So once you've marked it off, it disappears up from your current tasks. So again, it's kind of cleared from your visual view that it's outstanding. And one of the things we've got to just finish off by putting in there is a little tab there that says what the tasks I've done, in case you ever need to go back. But you can allocate a task to someone else. So actually, I don't want to make coffee myself for Dave, Hannah. Could you edit it? And allocate it to, let's allocate it to Claire. Excellent, save it. So now, if we scroll down, any task I've allocated elsewhere, I can see. And I think in the legacy version, that doesn't happen. You can allocate it elsewhere, but you can't kind of see it after that, after the event. But you can't complete it. If you've allocated it to someone else, you can't complete it for them. But I have, I think you have to go to edit at the moment. You probably have to put it back to yourself and delete, but we can put some other actions in there.
The ones that you've completed that have dropped off your list,
yeah.
Can you go back and view them?
Not at the moment, but you will be able to by the time we're launching into live. So, yeah. If we can scroll back to the top then, Hannah. You can then, obviously we've talked about that. At the moment, you have, and this button is kind of hangover from the legacy version, you can delete all your completed tasks. So the one that we've just done here, it's on green because it's completed, but you might get, in the legacy version, that list just grows and grows and grows. What we've got to just finish off is just actually removing that from what you see here, just put it somewhere else and get back to it. We don't really need to delete it, we just need to know it's done. The option to delete is there just for your kind of visual ease of use. You can go back to the diary. But I'm sure, most importantly, that's probably all the kind of boring bits, isn't it? In list. Let's go on to cases because that actually is the fun stuff. Okay. Okay, so Hannah's about to collapse the sidebar. So if you are the type of person who likes to make the most of the width of your screen, if you could do that for us, Hannah, you can disappear. And that type of action appears on quite a few screens now, just to get the most out of your screen real estate, is his name. So we've got a list of clients. We've now got some searching facilities in here. While we're searching within caseworkers at the top, Hannah, could you search for the caseworker called Ben? And just do a enter on that. So that's all Ben's cases. Okay, so he's the primary advisor on public cases. And take if you want to be looking at case allocations, who's got what at any point, do that? Any caseworker, not just primary. Okay, so if you allocate 3 or 4 people to a case, then they'll come up as a result in that list.
Can distinguish between
Yeah.
the same cert. And like the present thinks I can research, I'll get first and
Yeah, so if you put your first name in, yeah. All it's searching is within a string of text, I'm guessing, isn't it then? So, yeah. Yep. So from case, we've got different things that we can filter our list on. So we could search for clients. In client names then, if we search for duck, we've got a couple. So it's quicker, I don't know if you've noticed that. Particularly when we've had different testing phases at Newcastle, it's a lot quicker than it was. So you can do that. Let's drop down again, Hannah, the search field, because this, I think, will be really helpful on debt reference. How many of you get letters from a creditor that doesn't tell you the name of the client? Happens all the time. So let's search 3454 in there. Yes. So Scrooge McDuck has got a debt where that string of text appears in one of his debts. So you can immediately try and kind of narrow it down who you need to go and look at. Obviously, the more you put into that search field, it's a filter, so the narrower results. No, it's just to kind of narrow your results down rather than to produce an export at the present time. It's something we could look at doing in a later stage if we feel that's something that people would want to be able to do. I'm going to guess if you want to look at case allocations, if you're a centre manager and you want to have like a monthly idea of caseload amongst your team, that might be quite a handy way to do it. But we could easily put a report in at some point for something like that, couldn't we? Yeah.
That's the use case.
Yeah. So let us know. But that type of thing, building a report of stuff that's already in Catalyst in a logical, because we're storing things in a bit more of a logical way now, means it's easier for us to go, right, we can just do a report on that, and we can save that, make that report available to you. Okay. Great. Let's clear the filter, the search box, Hannah, if we can. And just do a return on that. So we've got everyone again. We can filter by different columns. So let's have a look at stage of advice. Client action needed. Okay, so I know in our stage of advice field, which we'll talk about in a minute, if you're waiting for the client to get back to you for something and you flag that up in there, and you want, as an advisor, you're going, right, okay, I just want to see who's still got those things outstanding. You don't need to nudge. You can filter it down and get to those really quickly. It's all there to help you out. And equally with things like open and closed status. At the moment, in legacy, that doesn't work so well. Make sure that's fixed by the time it's released in the new version. Because at the moment, if you get this right, you might filter by close, but then if you look at the column for the date, it's the open date, not the close date, or something like that. It's not quite right. But yeah, new Catalyst, by the time you get it live, it will be. Okay, you get into record, and because we've had to change the screen resolution for the demo, you get into record by scrolling to the right. On your screen, on a normal laptop, it will just be on the right-hand side of the screen. It's just a big configure one. So yeah, view record, and we'll probably also make that where you can click anywhere on that line, I think. It just makes more sense. Ben's not shaking his head over it. Okay, let's go into, in fact, can we go back to Scrooge McDuck? That's okay, can't remember where he is. He's at the top of the list. Anyone else child of the 90s, 80s, 90s, or remembers DuckTales? No, okay, just me. I'm young. Oh, I'll take that. Thank you. Okay, so I talked about a case overview earlier. Now you get to see in action. So on the left-hand side, you can see the stuff that's coming up for Scrooge. You can see what appointments are coming up. It's forward-looking rather than historic-looking at the present time. So stuff that's already happened, probably not that bothered about in terms of being able to see it. You want to see when you're next going to see that client and what's coming up for them. You can see the people that are attached to the case. So we'll go into the client and household in a little while and have a look at them. You can see pinned case notes. So you can have a look at the one thing that you want people to see. We can see the FCA, if we scroll down a bit, Hannah, that's okay. Yeah, we can see the FCA compliance checklist, any outstanding items on that. So the more things you've ticked off, the less are on this list. Makes sense? And then on the right-hand side, you've got a bit of a summary of like the kind of financial position. So that's the case overview. Before we go, we're going to work across the kind of tabs that are about a third of the way down in a minute. Before we do that, I'm just going to talk you through this kind of top third ribbon where it's got Scrooge McDuck in bigger writing. Up here, we've chosen to give you basic biographical information that you probably always get asked if you're phoning a creditor. Instead of having to hop between different screens to be able to identify the date of birth and the home address and your reference number that you use, all the types of things you get asked for to clear security, they're just up there now. You edit them somewhere else, but they're up there for you to be able to get through, so it's a bit more obvious. And things like the email address and be able to click and just send an email to from your normal email, not through Catalyst. There's a link. I've got the phone number highlighted, but that's because my browser does kind of internet calling. So in theory, I could click that and just phone the number through my browser, but most people don't use that, but the functionality would work. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through left to right on the case tabs here. So let's have a look at case details. There are a few tweaks just here and there that we need to finish off. They're not massive ones, and some of it's just kind of tidying up the formatting rather than changing the function. The stuff on the left-hand side of this top pane, case details, is the stuff that stays the same regardless of who that person is. You can change the person's details, but that case number, whether it's using SFS or CFS, when it was overturned, all that kind of stuff, it's just there. And it's in this screen in a moment, you'll edit it. The stuff on the right is pulling it through from the person who's named as the client. So if you need to edit it, you go to the client. And this is one of the kind of design features, decisions that we put in. We don't have information editable in different places. You always go back to one place to edit something. You see that more when we get to something like the DRA fact finder in a little while. If we scroll down then, we've got the address history. And in the current version of Catalyst, you have, in the client tab, if I remember rightly, you have their current address, and then you have like loads of previous addresses. They're all squashed together, and it just becomes addresses. And the address that doesn't have a date moved out is current. It's quite simple, isn't it? They've not moved out of it, they still live there. So that's one it'd pick up as being the current address. If we were to add new addresses in there, it would automatically end the previous address and work out how long they got there, things like that for you. So that's all in there. If we just, can we, I don't know what the term is, can we click the hamburger? Okay, so there are a couple of things we can do easily in here. We can edit the case, so that would be editing that block on the left-hand side. We could add a new address. So these are the actions from this screen that you can take. You could edit the client review date as well. So again, in the current version of Catalyst, there are actions on pages that don't make sense. And we've tried to tidy that up, make them make sense. So you always just go to the right place every time. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Do keep sending questions through on WhatsApp. We'll come back to them in a little while if we need to. Okay, compliance. This is a brand new tab. If you're a debt advice centre in particular, you will know that FCA compliance is unfortunately just a fact of life for us these days. And increasingly now we've got things like consumer duty. We're having to be able to evidence and demonstrate that we've done certain things. So what we've done is, instead of having the checklist at the bottom of the case details, we've given it its own tab. We want to make it clear it's an important thing. The stuff that you've ticked off on here is no longer on the case overview as outstanding. The stuff that isn't ticked on here will be on that list as outstanding. So feeds one feeds the other. Behind this, there'll be some logging of who ticked what when, that kind of thing. And the other bits and pieces that we need to get on these screens are stuff to do with consumer duty changes that were just made into legacy. We need to make sure that they are mirrored here as well. But sadly, compliance is just a fact of life for us now. So, any of you guys around long enough to remember the days of OFT registration rather than FCA? Yeah, it was nice then, wasn't it? It was easier. Anyway, so then we get to case notes, which is pretty much what you'd expect it to be. I've just copied bits and pieces from the BBC website. But I can make case notes in here, like you'd expect, and I can format them, make things bigger, make things bold. And we can pin. So that top one is already pinned, which is why it appears on the case note review screen. You can only pin one case note at a time. If you try to pin another one at a time, you can't. You have to unpin the first one. So it's then up to you what note, if any, you want to pin. Kind of power's in your hands, but the facility is there. This also allows you to do things like insert a link. So I don't know how many of you use things like Turn to Us or Entitled To, and you get to the end of it and you actually want to save the results, and most of them just give you a web link to get back to the calculation. You can just copy and paste that web link into here, make it a link, and then you can just go back to it. Makes sense. So that's case notes, but there's no radical change there. It's pretty much, I'm looking around the room and not seeing lots of faces of people that look totally freaked out by this. This is good. This is good. Okay, let's move on to client and household then. As you'd expect, anyone who lives in that household, including the client. So one person always has to be named as the client, and it won't let you have more than one. So if you go into a second person and make them the client, it will make the other person an adult, and that type of thing. So it's got that kind of function behind it. It works for age out, all the other things. Can we just view that record, Hannah, please? Okay, so one of the things, it's a subtle difference, but hopefully you'll see why we've done it. We've got all the fields and the data that's been entered against them here. What we've got in here, though, are fields where data has not been entered. And if you have ever spotted in the previous version of Catalyst, this only shows up in the current version, doesn't show you empty fields. So you don't know what you've missed. So you've got visual clue here that you've not got some bits of information. It's just there, again, it's made memoir that if I go into here, I can see I've not got an email notes for them, or I've not got preferred contact, or whatever. So and this is where, once we put it on, it's where things like client vulnerabilities will live, and the preferred means of contact and all that kind of stuff.
What do you do if there's somebody else in the household who's also a client?
You will still have to create 2 case records, because you are providing casework you've got to take into account that they're part of the household, for lots of reasons, but you can't manage both people from within one case.
So you can't have a case that's a married couple?
Yes, you can, but you'd have to end up with 2 cases. If you're advising them both, you'd have to end up with 2 cases. Joint debts, you'd have to put them in twice. It may well be that eventually there's a use case that says we need to be able to duplicate the case and then go in and change the husband or wife that way around. But because sometimes it is easier to manage it in a single case and then get to the point of, right, this is what we need to do for one, this is what we need to do for the other. But at the moment, that's not there. It's not there in the current version. And we have to, basically, our kind of parameters for this were, let's make it do what it currently does better, And then we've got some kind of extra bells and whistles. That's not one of them that's made it to the first release. I'm not saying it wouldn't make it to a future one. Yeah, so it's a hamburger menu. We've collapsed it to get it on the screen, so if you click that, you can edit the person, and then you've got all your fields to edit.
Have you changed the date of birth to the European?
Yeah, so dates. I'm going to talk to you about dates. Hopefully you'll be able to key dates in the format day, month, year. And also, if it's a date and time field, you'll be able to do that and just bang the time as well as part of that string. So again, it's designed around being able for you to use some of you will prefer just to use a keyboard for everything, or as much as you can, and others are quite happy with a mouse. The American phone number is in there at the present time because we've basically just got a load of like fake data in there. So I think it's editable. Can we just try and change that, Aaron? Just make that a +44. Don't think it's that clever. I think, yeah, there you go. Let's change it. So you it's what, sorry? Yeah, for whatever you want. It is formatting in a particular way, but we can play with that format once it's saved. You can add person note, which is the same as before. You can add a bank account, exactly the same as before. Bank accounts will appear at the bottom of the list. And if you've got them, you'll be able to edit them. And so you are. So if we can just click back on client and household, Hannah. You can add a new person from the list. So you have to be in this screen. Be back in your kind of main screen for that. Add a new person. I don't think we need to for now. Just click that. Oh! Knew it would happen. So if we just go to the history toolbar at the top, Hannah. Yeah. I'm back. There we go. Right. Before, I was just about to tell you something important as well. Can we just head over to case overview again? I think it's case overview. No, it's in case details, sorry. There we go. Okay, there's one field here that I've not told you about that's new. It's excluded from debt stats. So you can, so if you've got a client in at the present time, any details you put against the client appears in your debt statistics. You may have a use case where within your centre you want some training records and you want people to go and be able to kind of play, new volunteers or whatever, to go and play. You can tick that box, they never appear in your debt statistics. So you don't need to set up a separate debt centre or anything like that, you can just have them there. Make sense? Yeah. So you've got the ability to take them out. Right, where have we got up to? Don't find an housework. Let's go to caseworkers then. Caseworkers becomes a little bit more advanced than it was in legacy, in that you can more easily add and remove people that are working on a case at a given time. Often it might only just be one person, and it will automatically get that when you add a new case, and just bang, if you're the person that added it, you're the person that's linked initially. But you can change that. You can add new people, so let's drop that down. Let's add Ben to the case, if we can. Doesn't rest, yeah. And link him to the case. So that's then affecting, when I'm doing my client searching, he's now appearing in Ben's case listing as part of his case load as well. But Ben's going to work on it himself, so let's take me out. If we can, unlink me, remove me. And then the other thing we'll be able to do is make one person the primary advisor. So if you're in a situation where you've got maybe 3 or 4 people who's working on a case, one of them is the one that's kind of holding the ring. That's the terminology people use there. Then you can make them the primary advisor and then be able to kind of filter and have reports based on that. The other reason that we've done this is actually it won't make it into version 1, but it will make it into version 2. And we have got in our sites the ability to manage conflict of interest a bit better. So particularly in centres where you use a lot of volunteer recruitment, and maybe more so in faith-based centres, not necessarily, and you may well come across more cases where there are people known to or some of the advisors, and actually they're not the ones doing advice, so they really shouldn't have access to that information to protect everybody. You'll be able to make this a case private to only the people that are named as the advisors. So, yeah. Oh, data is going to be in Facebook. There you go. So you'll be able to manage that conflict of interest a little bit better, and help everyone out really, by limiting it. I mean, you might get to the point where actually you only have, that's your default. You always want cases to be like that, and so people can only ever search and view cases that they are already named advice on. But we're not at that stage of making it default for everything. At the moment, it's just an option.
You can eliminate one person?
Yes.
Or
You eliminate everyone apart from the people that are named. So, or the centre manager. So in this case, Ben is a manager. Have we got any other users that we could go? So let's have the caseworker user now, link them. So in this case, only Ben and the caseworker user would be able to see this case.
so nobody at the management line?
The management line is slightly different because obviously if you're a manager, you're expected to have management oversight of the whole thing. And we can't easily kind of exclude conflicts of interest at manager level, but we can at advisor level. I would say hopefully it's a bit less, there's less of a occurrence of that conflict of interest at manager level because there are fewer managers and you've got breadth of team. We can refine that as we go a little bit, but the idea is that we're giving you the tools to be able to manage that technically as well, because I know what happens otherwise is people just take it off Catalyst, and so we'll just manage everything on paper in a lock cabinet because that's the only way in which we can do it. And I totally get why, but we ought to be able to manage that technically for you. So that's what we're going to introduce it. Okay, let's go to the money tab. The money tab is one of my favourites. Spend a lot of time here when I'm doing testing. Some of these things, is enough of this, I mean, apart from caseworkers and compliance, is enough of it feeling familiar to you?
Yeah.
Good. That's a good kind of mark in the sand, isn't it? So this is not going to scare me too much when we get to that point. Okay, yes. On that, so Julianne's asked about how you add a new case. So when you're in that searching screen, we collapse the hamburger menu, but only just to get more columns on the screen. But if you were to expand that, you'd be able to get back to that. There'll be an add new case action. Yeah. Okay. So hopefully this seems quite familiar. It might look a bit, the formatting might be slightly different, but you've got your income, your expenditure, your key ones. I have to say, although these top 5 have been around for ages, I'm not sure I haven't made that much use of them in terms of looking at the top 5. I'm more interested in the other stuff anyway. But in terms of familiarity, there it is. You've got your current spend and your income and expenditure against the guidelines, and that will switch to CFS if you're in Scotland. And then you've got details of your financial status and summary there, income, expenditure, any savings that you've added, that kind of thing. So that's there. Let's work. So within money, we've got another level of tabs just underneath it. So this is the overview. Let's manage the income. Okay, so if you are in Legacy Catalyst, you get a little pop-up on your screen, and it's one of those types of pop-ups that will time you out if you're not careful. It doesn't do that anymore because it's not a pop-up. You get the different categories of income on the left-hand side. You get the ability to put values in, to add a note, there's a little note symbol. And hoping this will work. Well, can we put salary of, I don't know, £250 a month in there? Now, we've got this green update all income button, we're not going to click that. Let's just go to quick caseworkers, Hannah, if that's all right at the top. Great. Okay, it's given me a prompt and I've not saved it. So I get to choose, am I just ignoring what I've just put in, or am I going to go back and press save? So let's return to the page. Let's go and update the income. And we'll save it. Okay. Similar thing with expenditure, so let's have a look at that. What we've done is we've got tabs down the left-hand side that pretty much mirror the different sections within the standard financial statement. We've had to group some together, otherwise we end up with loads of different things. So some of them you'll look like, why is, pensions, insurances, professional and other. But you'll know if you understand the standard financial statement, why they would be scrunched together. But similar type of thing, you've got different sections that you can go through. We had to work out whether we had more sections on the left-hand side and shorter forms, or whether we had fewer sections on the left-hand side and longer forms. This is where we've landed for now. But hopefully it makes sense. Let's have a look at debts. Again, it's all fake data at the present time. We'll go and view a debt. So you can tell straight away we've got priority debt came from red. So slightly kind of better kind of indication of what things are. Let's view that then, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the fields that are in here because there's some new ones. So first of all, we have a creditor and a collector. They both use the creditors database. We're not at the point where we can just say these only do debt collection and never own. We might eventually get to that point, but we're not at that point at the present time. So the creditor and the collector can actually be the same people, or they might be different people, and that might indicate who you want to write to if you're sending a letter, for example. You've got a category and a liability and a status. No, but I'll show you in a moment how because of searching, when you're wanting to find your creditor, we'll add a new debt in a minute. We'll see how it works. It's so much quicker than it ever was before. In fact, if you've been using the new, adding new debts in legacy since the change a few weeks ago, where your list narrows down as you type more in, is that kind of set up there.
Is there anywhere on that field you can put down if it's a county court judgment?
Yes. Yeah. So you'll see here there's a field called enforcement. In fact, let's go and edit this debt, Hannah, if we can, because we'll see what some of the options are. What we've done, we have so many different options for enforcement and liability. That do we put 60 different options in, or do we try and make it a smaller group of options that actually are squashed together but make logical sense? So what we've done here is I said, nothing's happening, something might be happening, something has happened in terms of court but not being enforced by bailiff. The bailiffs are involved, bailiffs have been, or is something else. We felt that was enough to kind of get you going, really. It's a new field. If we find within a few months that actually people need other values, then that's the type of thing we'll get feedback from you guys in terms of how it's going. You'll be able to mark the liability, so that's another field, that's one above enforcement, Hannah, if that's okay. You can say who is liable for a particular debt. So it's got different options in there which we can add to if we need to put other options in. You'll see there, the partner might have liability, so you asked a question earlier about what happens when you're working with a family, but actually at the minute you've got one person named as a client rather than a couple. It's still helpful often to know the kind of full circumstances, isn't it? So even if they're not personal, if you've got a client where there's a debt for the household but they're not liable, you're able to kind of mark that as such and view that. Somebody come in. Nina, was that a question?
Yes. If you click other in some of those menus.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So it's not, because we want to try and keep the data behind it as standardised as we can. If we start doing, you've got other, and then you're going to give details, it makes it more difficult for us then to kind of report off it. So anything like that, yeah, you still get debt notes, so put it in the debt note. Yeah.
Liabilities to be on.
Sorry, I didn't catch your question.
Any of those liabilities to be on the SFS?
No, not necessarily. Sorry, they will print on the SFS. But I need to go back and check what happens with partner and joint. It may well be we might just need to do some degree poke through there, and based on whether the application type is single or joint. I don't know if people use that. So in the case details, you say whether it's a single or joint application, and it may well be that that also works out whether it should appear on the SFS or not. So these are the kind of, there's a word for kind of detail now that we need to get ironed out when we're doing that testing. But that's a really good question. You'll notice we changed a couple of field names here just to make it more obvious what we want you to store in each field. So instead of having account number and reference, who knows what they mean? We've got latest account number, what we're using now, what it was originally. Hopefully, we'll get the transition when we do all the migration. Hopefully, if you put it in one and it's gone into the other, we'll be able to change it for you. But we will tell you in the run up to the actual migrations going live, we will tell you if there's a change like that, that account number is going to become latest account number, reference is going to become, there's a way of us working it out. So in case you want to do some housekeeping before we go live, you can choose what goes on your letter, and we'll come on to merge fields in a little while as well. Yeah. So you've got offers and things like that. And we're going to scroll back up a bit, Hannah. Some of these, I think, are, kind of have been there for ages. There's a few that we just need to do a bit of formatting, kind of tidying up. These ones here, after show debt on financial statement, all relate to information you might need to add against debt if you're preparing a DRO fact finder. And instead of editing it in the DRO fact finder, you put it back at source with the debt. So we'll put like a box around that to say these are DRO specific fields. You don't have to fill them in, but they're there. It makes sense that they're all in one place. Okay. The other thing, just while we're in this, Hannah, if we can, this is a debt type of council tax. We know that council tax can only ever be a priority debt, don't we? Unless you can extend it, in which case I won't expect you to. But yeah, if council tax can only ever be a priority, let's change it from council tax to rent. Still, yeah, because the ultimate sanction is prison, so it's still priority. Yeah. Okay, so rent arrears, it can be either, because if it's current rent, it's priority. If it's formal rent, it's not. Yeah, so you get to choose. If we go to credit card, okay, it's not a priority by default, but you can change it. So we'll suggest what the default ought to be, and we'll give you a hint if we think you might have got it wrong. So you can change it, but we'll say it's normally that. So hopefully, again, it will stop you kind of getting errors kind of further down the line. Great. Other debt type? No, there's not at the moment, sadly. We'd have to then work out how we portray that on the financial statement, you see. So yeah, we've not got that at the minute. So if we just hit the debts tab again, and hopefully that will just take us back to the list. You don't need to save it. So, Julian, you were asking, I think it was earlier, about how you create a new client. We've got new debt over there. On the other screen, you get new client, new case. Got the terminology right. So, yeah. And here we've got some of the, those new fields. We've put them in the columns on this view as well. So again, you can draw your eye to the depths that you might want to keep a closer eye on. If we got really clever, we might want to be able to eventually put some symbols on here. I don't know, if bailiffs are involved, you might want a like yellow triangle with an exclamation mark or something to, again, draw your eye to what's going on. But the data's there. Savings and assets, at the present time, look pretty much exactly as they are in the current version of Catalyst, so there's not a lot to tell you about that. You can give it a click, I think it'll work. One of the things that will happen before we go into testing though, is we're gonna, in the current version, we make some assumptions on these. I don't know if you've ever really thought about that. We assume that someone's asked about savings, and we assume that if there are no assets listed, the advisor has actually asked the question about assets. We're going to put some preliminary questions in there to say, have you asked? And if you haven't, when you go to the financial statement, it will give you an error. It will flag off on the financial statement that you've not asked, and you need to. So that's, we'll take out, we'll be able to distinguish between no response and a response of no. Because we need to know the difference between the two. But, so they're not quite ready yet, but we'll get there. Financial statement, let's give that a click. Over for time, we've got 5 minutes left.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
On the assets one,
Yeah.
that changed because when you do it on the normal one, it's doing, we don't allow you to write in a credit tab as if like it was like if you've got a car.
Yeah.
Or an HP or something. If somebody rightly owns the car, and it's, you know, less than 30,000 pounds a year, it doesn't give you the option, it just say that the site is looking for a credit card.
I don't think even in the current version that creditor in that level is a compulsory field. It might just be that you thought it was. I don't know, I'll have to go and check. But I think you can put it in without a creditor name.
Right, okay. That's what I've done.
I'm getting some nods, so I think that's the case. If it's not, do let me know though. Okay, so your financial statement previews automatically. I don't know if any of you have ever got fed up before of clicking the financial statement button and it's put a copy of it in your letters. And if some of you, like me, had an antivirus called AVG, every time you clicked it, it created 3 of them. Bit frustrating. We don't need to save it as a letter because at this stage we're just viewing it as a draft. So what we're going to do, you can go to this at any point. It's not created a copy of it. When you're ready, if we can do the hamburger menu, Hannah. So there's a couple of things you can do here. We can edit from this screen what the notes are going to be. Yeah, it's a more logical place. Yeah. And then when you press publish, it'll end up going into files.
You know, the review done.
No, but that might not be a bad thing to just be able to put into there actually. It's a simple action. Because review can be used for other things, just when the SFS review is on the other screen, but there's no reason it couldn't be on here as well actually. So that's the financial statement. Fact find is a thing that I'm going to go through with you in a little bit of detail, and then I'm very aware of time and we'll need to start to draw things to a close. Okay, with the fact finder, we have started from scratch because what was in the current version of Catalyst and what was being asked by the insolvency service, you're an approved intermediary, have grown apart over the years significantly. So we went back to scratch on this and said, what are the insolvency service actually asking us for, and in what order? That's what you see on the screen. Okay. So you've got different sections down the left-hand side, a bit like you were used to before, but you can get to any of them at any point. And if you complete the data in that section with all the validation that it requires, it goes green. And if you're kind of working through it and you've put data that doesn't pass muster in there, it will go, the bit on the left-hand side will go red. So you know where you've got to go back and correct your errors. And eventually you can save that as a draft all the way through, and eventually once you're happy with it and it's got everything in it, you can publish. And that's when it goes into files. The thing about this as well though, in the current version of Catalyst, when you create the DRO fact finder, it kind of drags some data in from elsewhere in Catalyst, and then you can start to tinker with it and edit it. But it doesn't synchronize back to what you started with. That's a problem because we end up with data mismatch. So we've taken a decision in this that you can't edit anything in here that is already stored somewhere else in Catalyst. If you need to change it, you need to go back somewhere else in Catalyst and change it to source, and then filter through here. Make sense? Yes, so if you've got it, it pre-populates. Yeah. If you go on to creditors on this, hopefully it will, on the DRO fact finder at the bottom of that. Yeah. So to pull those three creditors through, previously you would have had to have added or checked all of that information about whether it's an HMRC debt, all of that kind of stuff in here. You don't do it in here. You do it back in the debt because that's where it belongs, the data. And it asks you again, is it complete? So let's do yes to that. In fact, let's do no to that, so red, and go to previous section. So that section's now red because it's not complete. So we're trying to kind of guide you through the process and make sure you get a good fact finder at the end of the day that can then go into the insolvency service. Before I'm asked, we talked about APIs earlier, about systems being able to talk to each other. I'd love to be able to say, we couldn't just click a button and this goes off to the insolvency service as it is. It doesn't, and it can't at the minute, not because of us, but because the insolvency service doesn't have an API for their relief orders. So we can't do that at the present time. If they ever did, we'd be in a much better position at this stage to be able to produce what we want. I'm very aware of time. Letters and files are very similar to before. The key difference with files is that the letters that you have produced, we talked about starting them off in draft, and publishing them. Once you publish them, you'll be able to see them in your file explorer and file them as you wish. They still appear in your letters list, but you'll be able to, if you want a logical, kind of a mirror of what you do in a paper file, you'll be able to manage that yourself. So some of the things, when you publish a file, you'll be able to specify the file name, which you can't do with a letter at the present time. It just takes the template name, I think, like creditor letter to Tesco Mobile or whatever. So there's some level of kind of editability in there to make it easier for you as well. Right, I'm aware we're past 5 o'clock. I haven't seen many people sending me questions, and we've taken a few. I've just checked my WhatsApp in case there's any more on here. Not sort of, okay. Yeah, you go ahead with your question, Julian. Yep. Not at the present time. And the reason for that, at the present time, is we need to be careful about where data is going when we're taking it out of Catalyst. So if we ever got to that point, we'd have to be able to give you basically the ability to import a calendar, but with very limited information on it, so that if the calendar ended up in the wrong hands, it wasn't traceable back to the client. And there's that moment, it's like, is it worth doing? So we're not there at the minute. It's something we do get asked from time to time about calendars.
Because we have to input it into different
Yeah.
places.
Yeah. Okay, so another question over here.
Yeah, on the list of creditors,
Yep.
you put family, because we're increasingly finding people borrowing money from families.
Yes. So obviously all this work that's been done, squashing 60,000 creditors down to less than 2,000. One of the options there is family and friends. So you just go against family and friends. When we move to that system, at the present time, you can't create new creditors in legacy categories. You have to request one to get put in. We've actually decided we're going to keep that process because we can turn them around pretty quickly. and it also helps us keep things clean. There'll be the ability to request an edit if you are sure a creditor has genuinely moved and it's moved for all of the network, then we can edit it that way as well, and you'll be able to request an edit. Right, we're going to just take a few questions, and I'm aware that we're going to need to turn this room around pretty quickly for things. Okay, for couples, this is Tessa. Couples, will you be able to search by either name on the account? Good question. You search by any people? Thanks, Ben. Oh, sorry, I was going to get Ben and Dave up, but I'm very aware of time, so I'm going to rattle through questions. We might get more Q&A tomorrow. Okay, we'll be able to have test and practice cases. Yes, we talked about that. You just turn them off for debt stats. Will you be able to create recurring appointments from regular drop-ins? No, but you can do the duplicate thing. So it's not quite as good as Google Calendar yet. But we do look at those types of things often and go, what's the kind of functionality realistically we can build in? It might be a way to think, yeah. So we're aware it's the type of thing that people do like to be able to do. Can you search for case-related reminders in the diary? Don't think we've got any search facility within the diary at the present time. Might be version 2. Can you search for case-related? No, sometimes you need to delete a whole load. For example, when a client has a DRO and you need to delete future appointments. Not at the minute. Maybe that's something we could look at in the future. Can you mark debts as don't show on SFS? Yes. The terminologies don't show on financial statements because for some senators it will become a financial statement, but it's the same flag. Can you change all or a selection of debts to pro rata rather than having to go to each individual one? Not at the present time. But if there's enough kind of stuff like that, then we could look at being able to do some bulk actions in a future version. We've got the setup now, the stuff underneath the bonnet to do that. Okay. Liz. Yeah, I know. No, I'm going to finish up as quick as I can. Liz has asked case references. Will new version auto-generate them? No, it won't. You put them in, it's just a fake data that we've created that you can see on the screen. Internally within the system, every case gets a number, that never changes. It's just that you never see it unless you look within the URL bar. I'm just going to pick the ones that I have to from here in terms of most important. Can you add your own filters that you might want to go back to time and time again? Not at the present time. We're trying to improve things, but we have to be careful about how quickly and how far we go. Second item on the FCA checklist needs splitting into, I can come back to that separately. We can edit the FCA questions very easily. Now we're getting way easier. Yeah. We'll answer these I'll do, when we produce our video after the event, I'll do a Q&A for all the questions that have come, and we'll answer them that way. Okay, I'm sorry we've run out of time. Hopefully, you come away thinking this is not too scary, and you think you might be able to live with the changes that come. Yeah. Right. Thank you.